So we had a light earthquake last night. I only noticed because of the sound and a little bit movement outside the window, but I hear it's really common around here. Now, the question is, where are we? Look at this beauty. So as you know, we started in Antigua, Guatemala, and then headed to Lake Atitlan, which is where we are now. Now, there were two places they suggested we go, San Pedro and Panajachel, and we took a shuttle to San Pedro and then took a boat to Sununa. You can see that in our last video. I'll tag that below. And that's where we are. Good morning, sunshine. First time getting on a public bus. We're supposed to just stand here and they come to us.
Public boat.
Public boat. What did I say?
You said bus.
First time getting on a public boat. We're supposed to just stand here and they come. Not complaining though. Look at the view. Asking for safe passage. I see one. So a little one. Hopefully they come here. It turned, it's coming! In our excitement to seeing the first boat coming to the dock, we kind of didn't realize which way it was heading, and we wanted to go to San Marco, and it was heading to Panajachel, which is completely the opposite way. But this is what we do, we just roll with it. Raya? So we just made it to Panajachel, and we were meaning to go to San Marco. But as soon as we got on the boat, we realized it was going the other way. And not everybody here speaks Spanish. I wasn't sure who I could speak to. I said good morning generally, but nobody answered. Anyhow, I had taken money out that I thought would last me a week, or it would have in San Cristobal, but it lasted a day. So we're looking for an ATM and they don't have them everywhere. They certainly don't have them in our town. We asked around and we were told that the closest ATM to the dock was in a grocery store. So we walked there, picked up a few things to take back to the cabin, and then decided to have breakfast. I kind of wanted to go back to the dock to have breakfast because the vibe was so cute. Like, it almost made me feel like a beach town, which I guess it's just because we're next to the water. And of course, I had to have my first cup of coffee of the day. Gracias, mami, por este. Estaba divino. The food was very similar to Mexican cuisine. Of course, my daughter had a burger because that's what she gets, but my food was very similar.
Tortillas here are smaller and thicker.
I just realized I haven't introduced myself. So if you're new to me, hi, my name is Karen, and my daughters and I have been traveling full time for the past 5 years, and we right now live in Mexico. I have been using that as our home base for the past 2 years to travel through Central America and soon South America. Traveling is part of their learning, so we do a lot of museums. And that was our first pit stop in our discovery of today. Lake Atitlan is in a crater that was created from a volcanic eruption more than 85,000 years ago. So we got to explore some of the scientific information as well as history of the area. And then the lady took us downstairs to a very unique little room that depicting ruins that are found in the depth of the lake, underwater. The Mayan culture is alive and well in this part of the world, and it's nice to see how every town conserves it a little bit differently. Then we headed to the Embarcadero. We wanted to see the lake in this part, or in this town, and on the way there were a bunch of little shops with souvenirs and all kinds of local artisans. I found this Embarcadero to be a little bit different than all the other towns we got to visit during this trip. It actually had like a really big area to walk by the lake. There were even some people swimming, not a lot, but there was somewhere to swim. And there were a lot of private boats that were easily accessible. This was truly a perfect area to just take a moment and just enjoy the view. This lake is gorgeous. Gorgeous. You feel such peace just standing by it. Now when you're walking in this area, there's a lot of vendors trying to sell you a boat ride. This is because there's different kinds of boats in this area. Besides the public boat that we took, there's a lot of tourist options that either take you like on a guided tour or give you a private ride. Now, keeping that in mind that these are all different prices. For the public transportation, we paid anywhere between 10 and 25 depending where we were going and who was running the boat. There is a really big tourist tax in this area. The prices are different for tourists, and significantly so. The tourist boats, I believe, can run you up to 50 quetzales per person. As I tell you about Panajachel, I have to say that this is my perspective from visiting for a few hours. We spent a week in Lake Atitlan, and it really was not enough time to visit all the town and really absorb the local culture. So my knowledge is so limited. I'm just sharing with you what my experience has been. And I hope that you find your own experience so you can draw your own conclusions and maybe share with the rest of us what you learned. If you can, find a local YouTuber. And if you're watching and know any Guatemalan YouTubers, please let me know in the comments. Would love to see them. Something that was very present in all the towns that we visited was coffee. Being so close to Chiapas, I should have not been surprised by this because it's the perfect temperature to grow coffee. And a lot of the coffee growers in this region are kind of like backyard, so to speak, growers. This particular coffee shop was started by somebody that his family just grew coffee on their land, and he decided to start a chain of coffee shops. I believe she said that this was the second one they opened. Don't quote me on that. But she was very knowledgeable on all things coffee, and she told us a story about how the coffee shop came about and where the coffee comes from. It was a great experience to have, and the coffee was so good and came with a little card that told you all the details on the roast. The last thing we tried to do was go to a gallery, but we went on a day that it was closed, so that didn't work out. So we decided to go back to the Embarcadero, where the public transportation is, and take a boat back home to call it a day and then try again tomorrow and see what we can explore. I have to say that my favorite part of the lake was being on the lake. I know that there's swimming and things like that, and we did swim for a little bit, but I have to say that the boat rides were my favorite part. Even though the sun is really, really strong, it's nice and cool as you ride through the lake. Day 3. Good morning, sunshine. So to get around from town to town, for most of the towns, you can only take a boat, una lancha. And on the big ports, there's tons of lanchas. You can go, you can tell them where you want to go and pretty much go anywhere, right? Here in our little port, we have to kind of like hail a lancha like you hail a cab. And yesterday, we meant to go right, but we ended up going left. So today, we are gonna be on the lookout for the lanchas going the other way. There's two going both ways. So right there, I guess it's the main port for Sununa, which is where we're at. This one is a private one. I don't know if you can say. It's property of the hotel. But yesterday somebody stopped for us. Like, we just had to hail it. I see one. So a little one. Hopefully they come here. And that's the main one. it takes a while to get the hang of this thing, so wherever they take us, I'll be happy. So there were 4 main ports that they stopped at all times, which was Panajachel, San Marcos, San Pedro, and San Juan. Now these weren't the only ones. Sununa, it's where we were at, and they stopped there occasionally. Not every boat would stop there. And Santiago, which is supposed to be the biggest city on the lake, I had planned on going. We didn't get to go, but they supposedly have a butterfly preserve that is amazing, and they have markets on the weekends. And the other one that I want to mention, just because it was mentioned to me, would be San Pablo. And San Pablo is right next to San Marcos, except it's supposed to be really dangerous for tourists, so it's not recommended to go there, or at least I was recommended not to go there. They will also stop at hotels that are randomly placed between each city. You just have to ask. Casa Mundo is one of the most popular ones on TikTok, for example.
San Pedro.
Ah, voy por la... ¿Dónde me va a llevar?
¿No llevan a San Juan?
No, íbamos a Santiago.
Ah, ok.
Espera. ¿Me paga usted?
Now this interaction was because I did chat with him quite a bit during the trip about where we were going. Originally we had planned to go to Santiago because it was Tuesday and they had told me there was a market, but he said there wasn't, and he would suggest us going to either San Pedro and San Juan. I happened to choose San Pedro and then take a road trip to San Juan, which was right next door. I also asked who I paid because there's usually 2 people on the boat, one in the front, one in the back, and either one of them will charge you or somebody at the dock will charge you, or sometimes security will charge you. So I wasn't sure who to pay. And the amount varies as well, but the most we paid was $25.
The shirts you wear all the time.
The one place we knew we wanted to visit when we went to San Pedro was...
The restaurant's called Corazón del Lago.
This restaurant slash tour company belongs to the gentleman that brought us to the lake in the first place and kind of saved us and got us across the lake. Again, I'll tag that video below. So it absolutely was beautiful at night, but we really wanted to see what it was during the day and taste the food because he said that he catered to locals.
I'm not scared, you are. Wait, let me show you.
So this is where we first arrived, to the lake. That first sip of coffee in the morning. Oh my goodness. I forgot my medicine. Why was the coffee triggering to forget my medicine? Because I'm not supposed to drink coffee until an hour after drinking my medicine. Oops. Sorry, Mom.
I feel like every other day you're forgetting to take a photo.
I don't forget every day. It's just, so at home I have a routine and it's hard to keep that on the road.
It's every other day.
Yes, I travel with a chronic illness, and if you want to see what that's like and all of our adventures in general, please don't forget to subscribe. You have no idea how much I would appreciate it.
These are pupusas.
Huh? Panquecas? So these are made out of corn flour, similar dough to tortilla dough. In Venezuela we make arepas with it, but it's filled with cheese and sometimes they'll put chorizo inside and stuff like that.
So good though. So the pancakes are like a custardy feeling inside in the middle.
So it's hard to explain what they're like, but they're delicious. It's a very strong vanilla flavor. I would say it's almost well, definitely custardy, but like a vanilla pudding in the middle, and then nice and crispy on the outside.
What? It tastes like a squishy pancake.
Say that again. She said it tastes like a squishy pancake.
You look into flavors too much.
I disagree.
It is not a squishy pancake. Alright, so I don't know if this is a Guatemalan type of pancake, but we will investigate and let you know.
Or if you know, please tell us in the comments.
Now the pupusas are not from here. It said Salvadoreñas, so from El Salvador. But I love them. My husband was from Honduras, so we ate pupusas and all kinds of baleadas, and so it became part of our life to eat that kind of thing. So I love it, and it reminds me of arepas from Venezuela. So the white cheese from here has been amazing. This is some sort of creamy cheese. So it looks grainy, but when you put it in your mouth, it kind of just melts in your mouth. And then the cheese that they put in here. So they all have like a kind of like a mozzarella taste, really milky taste, except that one is like chewy and melts that well, and then the other one is more like a creamy consistency. Mira qué están estos esqueletos. ¿Estos cuántos están?
Está en 150 con descuento.
So even though in looks San Pedro looks a lot like Panajachel, one of the differences I was told was that San Pedro is much cheaper, like the accommodations and the food, etc., etc. And it has more of a nightlife, and it seems to be the place where backpackers go. Of course, we looked for museums and things that we can learn and ended up here. The entrance fee for this museum was 35 quetzales, and it had a little bit of everything. It focused on the culture of San Pedro specifically, even though it did give a little bit of history of the lake itself. It had a little bit of science, topographical maps, a lot of beautiful art. It had setups depicting how people lived back then, and some artifacts. It was truly beautiful. And at the end, they even gave us a little gift. You'll have to visit yourself to see what that's about. I'll give you a hint. It was from the Mayan calendar. So I pointed out how there were so many similarities between the culture here and San Cristobal or Chiapas. And the guy told me that, of course, because Chiapas was owned by Guatemala once upon a time. Something I did not know. There were a lot of things that I had planned to do in San Pedro upon my research. Of course, I wanted to explore what the nightlife was like around here. What deterred me from that was crossing back alone on a boat, and I would have had to pay $50 or 350 quetzales to take a private boat by myself because I'm not with a large group or anything. The other things, there's a local shaman that does fire ceremonies every night and do water sports. They had a banana boat out in the lake. It was really cool. I was told that during this month, every Friday, they do rugs of flowers on the streets. So of course I wanted to do that too. But for this day, we thought of splitting it between San Pedro and San Marco. And San Marco is close enough to go by tuk-tuk. So that was the game plan. But we stopped really quick to have something to eat. And this place was delicious. It really was. This one I started noticing that a lot of the places we ended up eating at seemed to cater to extranjeros. I would actually say that the lake itself, it's more like for tourists. Like most of the things that we got to do were very touristy. We're not really touristy people. So I think if I were ever to come back, I would spend minimum a month to be able to explore and really understand what the culture is like here. Because the first thing that you see is the touristy stuff.
Yo sé que siempre digo que el café de Chiapas es el más rico, pero el de Guatemala, ahí está.
Then we were ready to go to San Juan, which we hear is the most touristy of the towns. And like I said, San Juan is right next to San Pedro, so we took a tuk-tuk over that dropped us off in the center of town.
I got it home. My throat started hurting a little bit, so make do.
Make do because they didn't sell any kind of cold medication or anything for the throat in the pharmacy.
That looks yummy. They really like fried chicken, I don't know why.
There's fried chicken everywhere, so my daughter gave in and had some. We were walking towards the embarcadero and kind of stopping wherever we saw something interesting. Then we ran into this, 2 artisan places right next to each other. So we went into the textile one first. This is a cooperative in which the families get a proceeds of whatever happens here. And it seemed to be run by women.
Just told me they have a free tour.
This thing, no?
Sí. Entonces, la que va a estar con ustedes es Katy.
Gracias.
Buenos días.
This is the kind of thing you have to experience in person. There's something about like seeing these things in front of you, touching them, seeing how it's done, that makes it extra special. And one of the things that I like to learn in this kind of circumstances is the things that you take for granted, like the fact that they use the same seeds that come out of the cotton to replant for the next season, like the circle that these small villages have that bigger villages don't. When we did a cotton tour in the United States, they would sell the seeds instead of keeping them for the next harvest. They would keep some, but they would sell the rest.
So they gave us a free 10-minute tour, and then they took us to the store in which the families of the cooperative get 85%, and then the place itself for maintenance gets 15%. It's kind of hidden. Tuk-tuks know how to get here, and it's next to the chocolate place, so you can't miss it. Just look for that sign. And this is a chocolate place right next door. Okay, maybe not next door. That's them. Then there's the libreria. Then there's a ferreteria. And then it's the chocolate place.
And that's where we're going next.
They have a free tour here too. By the way, we did the tour in Spanish, but you can do it in English.
God, we had these. Do you remember? Open it. I can't open it.
So my grandma brought these from a trip, and you're supposed to put a wish on each of the little dolls and then keep them. First time I see them so far.
Just like their coffee, Guatemala grows cacao, but in small operations in cooperatives or associations, they use like old school methods of creating their chocolate bars and chocolate truffles and things like that. So the chocolate is a lot more healthy and a lot more pure, and usually has a very large percentage of cacao. And the process is what we got shown in the demonstration that unfortunately I couldn't record.
Cute that is. So the most original thing we learned during our demonstration was that they use oranges as a preservative and to give it flavor.
¿Qué dice mi dulce?
Dulce.
Dulce, solo chocolate.
Sí. ¿Por qué? ¿Qué es la otra
También tengo
opción?
con manilla, coco, almendra, anís.
No, solo chocolate.
Solo chocolate. Dulce.
Sí, por favor. Ay, qué rico. I've been seeing everybody wear these, and they're so cute. ¿Más estas o estas? Cute. So cute. I got them. So I'm at 7.5, 8 in the US, and I was at 38 here. Super cute. 110 pesos. I mean, quetzales. 110 quetzales. In San Cristobal, it's so hard to find sandals. So as soon as I saw all the girls wearing them, I knew I had to find them because I needed sandals that you can walk a lot in, and they walk a lot. So proven method, tried and true. So there's a lot of animals around because part of the Mayan calendar that we saw at the museum gives you an animal that is part of your personality or mission in life, if you would.
After experiencing San Juan, I think I understand why everybody would recommended this or said that this was the #1 town to visit. Yes, we got some fried chicken to take home. Okay, where was I? Because there's a lot of pretty things, Instagrammy things. Look at this cute little town leading to the Embarcadero, and they have a lot of coffee shops, a few activities, and they have an overlook that we didn't get to visit, but I totally would have loved to hike up to see the view. They also have tons of murals. It's a very artsy little town. I think out of all of the towns, this suited my vibe the most.
A lot of coffee and a lot of fried chicken. I think those are the two main things we have found. So 2 delicious coffees and a piece of cake were 80 quetzales. I think we're ready to go home.
Are you gonna be a little sloth on the way there?
So would I recommend doing 2 towns on the same day? Probably not. We just don't have that many days here, and you never know what's gonna happen tomorrow. So we did want to squeeze the most out of it. At least this kind of gave us an idea of what each town was like, and then we get to decide which town we would want to go back to. But yes, more time in this beautiful lake would have been optimal, because this is one of the towns at the end of the route. We actually got to fill the boat up before we started on our journey.
Acá como es porque no está gasolina. Mucho dinero aquí.
La gasolina está cara.
Está demasiado caro.
Something I vaguely mentioned at the beginning of the video is that not everybody speaks Spanish here. Each town has its own different type of Mayan language. In Panajachel, they speak something called Cachiquel. My apologies if I'm pronouncing it wrong. And in San Pedro, Tutuhil. So the people on the boat and the driver of the boats, sometimes I got to have a conversation with them, and sometimes I didn't, since we didn't speak the same language. I did not have the same experience in restaurants and things like that. There I found like a lot of them spoke Spanish.
It's a digital nomad kind of day.
Now we're back in Sununa, and I'm walking to catch a tuk-tuk, and I have a video that I dedicated to this area because our whole first day I kind of spent exploring and getting comfortable here.
So I've been trying to upload every day at the end of the day, but the Wi-Fi at the hotel is like 2 gigs max upload. So I haven't really been able to, and every Ghana has been 10.
And I need about 20 to make it work.
Now they say that around the lake it goes up to 20 gigs. I haven't found it, so today I'm trying to look for, we're in the search, upload videos.
So I checked at every place that we have visited so far to see the internet speed. So today I'm going to the only popular town that I haven't visited, which is San Marcos. Supposedly there's a lot of extranjeros there, which to me makes me think digital nomad, which maybe I have some luck. Now San Marcos is right next to Sunana, so that's why we're taking a tuk-tuk instead of a boat. And this tuk-tuk ride was 25 quetzales, and it dropped me off in the center of town. This appeared to be a much smaller town than the other ones we visited, although they said that there's a lot of things up the mountain, like retreat centers, yoga centers. There's a lot of spiritual things. In fact, the locals describe it as, oh, ahí es donde van los hippies. You know, that's where the hippies go. I really couldn't do more exploring than this, since I wasn't planning on going to any specific retreat or doing yoga and things like that. So after getting a drink, I kind of went back home. I visited like 6 or 7 coffee shops on the main street that leads to the Embarcadero. I realized that most of them have vegan food, which was pretty cool, but also their Wi-Fi went up to, and I think 9 was the max that I encountered. I did make it down all the way to the Embarcadero. Not sure why I didn't get any footage, but what I found unique about this one, besides it being just one dog fairly small was that it had security. It's the only one that I've seen has security.
So bust. It was a bust. San Marco is like nothing I ever imagined. But more so, like, everything's more expensive. So to go there, the tuk-tuk charged me 25 quetzales. On the way back, they wanted to charge me 80. So I took a boat. They charged me 15, and then the tuk-tuk charged me another 10. So it ended up being 25. But only because I said no to the 80, which is ludicrous. So I'm back home, have not uploaded anything because the most I could get was like 8 or 9 gigs. Good morning, sunshine. It looks like a vacation home. I don't think there's anybody in it. I do see the locals hang out there once in a while. But most of them hang out down there or in the dock. So I was supposed to go to a market today at a place that's like 2 hours away. But I'm sick. I have a cold. I think it's just a cold. I did forget to take my medication 2 days. But I think I just have a cold. It's hard with so much public transportation for me not to get sick because I have an autoimmune disease. So, yeah, I usually try to like stay away from big crowds, but I think it's impossible here. Or at least I don't know how. So I came to hang out with the lake. See if I can catch a sunrise. It's always so foggy in the morning, so I doubt it, but we shall see. It's like 6:30 and the public transportation is already going. You can actually hear them from the cabin. The cabin is a little bit removed from the shore, but you can hear when the boats start going because it's so quiet here. There isn't a lot of like car. Well, I don't think I've seen a car in our neighborhood. Only tuk-tuks or motor taxis. So you can hear the boats when they start going. Otherwise, it's pretty peaceful. This dog has a sap. The sap is coming through the paint. But it smells so good. Buenos días. I don't mind being sick. I'm sick very often, obviously, because of my illness, but it helps me slow down. Because today was going to be a busy day that I didn't get to do. But I get to experience this instead.
So if you do visit, just don't forget to take some time to just sit by the lake and enjoy the view. Thanks for joining me. Love you. Bye.